Okay, so George, you have now seen Don't Worry Darling as well. If you didn't know, we did a full review of Don't Worry Darling in episode 43, which you can go and check out. And I gave my spoiler-free impressions of that film. But I was quite keen for you to watch it, and I just wanted to get a sense of how you're feeling with it. I think my main takeaway from that film was that I really felt like it was a film of two halves, and I was really kind of interested in investing in it in the beginning. But the more and more that film revealed to me, I think I just became less and less interested in what it was trying to do. So this is a spoiler warning because we're going to get into some plot details for Don't Worry Darling. But George, you have now seen it. Yep. What did you think?
Okay. I think you were too kind on the film in your assessment. I was incredibly disappointed with Don't Worry Darling.
Okay.
I was frustrated at the culmination of so much talent and so much time to result in something that is so empty and thin, frankly.
Yeah.
So you said it's a film with two halves. I didn't even see it that kindly. I think that what doesn't work is that the film, for the most part, sets up this premise that something is amiss in this utopia, right? Something is off. But the fact that something is off is such a foregone conclusion that I felt like I was just waiting for that to happen, waiting for the reveal to happen. Not like it was building towards it, but I thought, okay, you've already told me
there's
something's off. We know that from the very beginning. When are you going to reveal that? Okay.
Yeah.
I think I have a real issue with how repetitive this film is and how it goes about sort of executing a story like this. So you're working in a genre or in a type of tale that is in the likes of The Matrix, The Truman Show, Stepford Wives, Black Mirror, okay?
Get Out.
And Get Out, right? Get Out is a very good example, okay? Because what I noticed very quickly with Don't Worry Darling is that there was no story other than something's up. So it wasn't like, here's the story, and by the way, also, out the corner of your eye, something strange is happening. The story is just weird things keep happening to Atlas, right? Every scene is Florence Pugh walking into a room and something's strange. Something's off. You know, the eggs don't have yolks in it. Yeah. The walls are moving. And I just thought, and that I began to count it on my hand. And it was like every single scene, I was like, something's going to happen to Florence Pugh. She's going to be like, what? And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
That for 90 minutes, the film's about 2 hours, so that's about the 90 minutes, 3/4 of it. That is so repetitive and therefore boring, and it makes Florence Pugh just a completely reactive presence to it. She has no sort of like agency of her own or proactive presence. She just reacts to everything. What I also didn't like is that the logic of the weird things that happen, don't adhere to any logic, are only there for cinematic thrills. So, for example, there's a bit where the wall closes behind Florence Pugh, pushes her up against a bit of glass. There's a bit where she's in a bathtub and she gets out and her reflection stays and looks at her, right? Yeah. There's a bit where she's doing some ballet and like through the mirror she can see Margaret, her neighbour, like banging to get out. Those are nice images. Those are great in a trailer, but those are completely not connected to whatever is happening. Yeah. So I felt nothing because I knew it wasn't based in any sort of reality or logic. Take Get Out, for example. There's that great bit where I think it's Chris, isn't it, the main guy, goes out, or whatever. Daniel Kaluuya's character goes outside and the gardener like runs at him. Remember that really great bit? Now at the time you're thinking, what the fuck's that about? But later you understand why.
Well,
it's because it's the grandfather, and like that makes total sense. But there is no logical reason about why the wall presses you, or why she wraps cellophane around her face.
I agree.
Or why she sees something trapped behind a mirror, other than something weird's happening and it might be in your head. Or like Black Swan, for example, did that thing of your reflection doesn't move when you do.
Yes.
But I was like, I get that because it's part of your mind not behaving yourself. But this is just like, what can we do in this scene? Okay, well, we've done the thing with the mirror. Why don't we do like, let's get cellophane to wrap around her face. Sorry.
Because it's suffocating.
You can see it gets handy because because it's suffocating. She feels trapped. Yeah. Right? It's so broad. And so you hear me. I just got quite frustrated and impatient with it because, like I said, you've got such talent on screen. Mm-hmm. Florence Pugh is doing a performance that is so far above what this film gives her, to the point where she doesn't do this. But I was almost like, you're almost overacting. You're giving it 10 out of 10, as you should, because you're a professional actress and you're fantastic because you're Florence Pugh. but the film is giving you so far below that I almost felt saying, like, Florence, don't bother as much. Just dial it back. You don't need to give it that much because that's not.
It's not much here.
You're thinking there's a greater thing.
There's not a depth payoff that's coming.
Absolutely not. I found Harry Styles, I agree with you, is fine. He's fine. He's bad. He's not terrible. He's no way near the worst thing in this film.
No.
I did think they lacked a chemistry between them, though, and there is a disconnect because you've got the great Florence Pugh, a fantastic actress, and you've got Harry Styles, who has been in 2 films. Okay?
Hey, he's done some real music videos in his time.
So you then have 90 minutes building towards something you know is going to happen, and then it happens, and the film is almost vomits the information at you, and then is almost embarrassed that it's left the ending so late, and just deals with it very quickly.
And it's like it's The Village essentially.
Yeah, or The Matrix. It's like, okay, or The Village. Yeah, it's all a
Village,
lie. It's a way of.
It is modern day.
It's modern day. It's a way of men who have been radicalized, basically incels have been radicalized via a podcast.
Have a very traditional way of viewing how like family should be.
But so underdeveloped as an idea that is very interesting. And what I'd like to do in a minute is read out an article. I think it was in People magazine that goes through the original draft of the script. Okay, because I think the script is really to blame here. It's clear this has been reworked so many times. That idea of men trapping women, of putting them back into gender roles, interesting. I think that's a very interesting. So underdeveloped and so undercooked that.
And then you also choose in your film to not reveal more about what the Victory Project actually was. And I sort of inferred that maybe there was nothing all along, and it was.
Let's just before we get to the actual reading you what the film was, I think we should actually talk about like what happens towards the end.
Yeah.
Can I also just say, like, I know I sound frustrated. I don't hate the film.
No.
I was so disappointed.
You've also had me kind of ruin any illusion that this would have been something worth giving your emotional energy to. Because I saw it on opening day and I was like, this mystery is working for me in the beginning. I agree with everything you said about the sequences feeling like they had no payoff, but you were told they had no payoff.
No, but the thing is, I don't remember you saying that to me. I remember I was still open to the mystery to reveal itself. I just began to realize that this is just a sequence of weird shit happening. Okay, here's another thing as well.
Did you guess that that's what it was? Because I said you probably would.
No,
you didn't guess it was modern day all the time.
No,
I didn't guess.
Do you know what? I wasn't interested enough to guess. That's what I soon realised. I just thought, I know something. You're just going to tell me at some point that something's up, and I bet it's a rehash of something I've seen before. And guess what?
It was.
It kind of was, right? So the film has no intrigue or no surprise. There's another bit that illustrates my point about there being sort of cinema logic over actual logic, which is where at the beginning she's hanging up washing. It's the very beginning when she starts to realise things are off, right? Florence Pugh's character, Alice. She hangs up the washing and then she pulls the washing down and she sees her neighbour, Margaret, stood maybe about, I don't know, a couple of metres away up on a verge of her house, just sort of staring into space, right? And Alice looks at Margaret and Margaret's sort of like, I don't know, muttering herself, or she's sort of staring into space. And it's really strange. And then it just cuts to the next scene of Alice in the kitchen. And I'm like, that cinematically is an intriguing thing to do, because you've been like, what happens there? But I also, as an audience member, I'm like, that's not the end of that scene, though, because I know Alice as a character would say something. Are you telling me that Alice just went, huh, that's strange? Because later she says, "Oh, Margaret was my friend." I'm like, there was an interaction that should have happened there.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And I feel like they were at the expense of actual seeing that scene to its logical conclusion. They were just, isn't it weird? What happened there? We don't know. I was like, well, I would have known what would have happened if you've hung around. I don't know.
Not had the scene. Okay, yeah.
Getting towards the actual, there's plot holes. Why the plane? What's the bus driver?
The plane?
Why does the bus driver? I couldn't believe at the end when Gemma Chan stabs Chris Pine, and I was just like, really? You were expecting me to react to that as if that character's you've been building it up all along? It's my turn now.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Forget it. They do cover how Harry Styles is British.
No,
I have to say.
They do. Yeah, but why assume? Why would you hold up that whole? Why would you hold up an American accent?
No, it's in the software. You don't have to hold it up. It gives it to you. It makes you British. That's why I assumed that the
software gave him the accent.
Yes.
No, he didn't.
Oh, so he can create a whole reality, but it can't make you speak in a different accent.
No, I don't think that was true. I thought he was putting it on.
No, I think you put the goggles on, you go to the Victory, and part of that translation to a different
world. But he knew what was going on. He didn't have his memory erased.
No, but it's not about memory. It's just like when you go in the same way that like he doesn't actually have those clothes in the real world. He doesn't have that accent. The software is giving him that, right?
Again, an
We're fighting
unexplained
over
reach.
But like he had the James Bond poster, blah blah blah. Anyway, so we get to the end, and Alice has sort of remembered. She has remembered, and she like goes to leave, and it's all in the real world. And I found the ending when she's like climbing the mountain to get to the lab to escape. Again, really underwhelming because I'm like,
by that point,
you've built this simulation. You could have put a wall around it. You could have put guards. You're telling me you built all of this just to have a massive exit unmanned over there, and this stupid chase in the desert with the Doctor. And sorry, I feel like I'm really, really hacking into this.
What was the plane?
What was the plane, James?
Was it definitely a simulation, or were they hypnotized by the software and then moved into a compound?
No, because she was on the bed with the goggles on.
Yeah, she's in the simulation.
Again, this idea that, and also the fact that the men leave. Why does Chris Pine make Harry dance on stage?
It's an unwanted
ultimately,
spectacle.
I gave up asking myself this question because I was like, I don't care because this film has really underserved me. And I hate to say this, but I just thought, what a waste of time. What a waste of my time. What a waste of everyone's time.
And it's annoying it's an original IP that has not delivered.
I know. I want to support this film. I love the cast.
Yeah.
I love the talent. Olivia Wilde, great. Can you keep making, made Booksmart, wants to make this, great. Original story. What? It felt like one of those like really great artisanal sandwiches you see, but then like when you open it up, it's got like the thinnest bit of filling. It's like one slither of meat.
When you get a steak and you get like 2 chips.
Is that what you're giving me? I'm sorry.
It's interesting to hear you're much more irritated with it than I am, and I don't think there's anything you said that's necessarily unfair. But I wasn't nearly as irritated by it in the first half as I was by the second. In the second half, I agree in everything. I was like, Alice running up the pile to see the Victory Project thing. I was sort of like, I just couldn't care what's in it anymore. Yeah. Now I've seen the whole Harry Styles incel bit in modern day, which I saw coming from a mile away.
But I did go into it with an open mind. I really did want to like it, which is why I'm frustrated because I just couldn't believe that for all the talent assembled, that it's just drops the ball and it's just less than the sum of its parts.
What do you think the Victory Project was? Do you think they were doing anything for their jobs, or do you think it was just they would get together and sit around all day? That's another thing. If they were doing nothing, what would they do from 9 till 5?
The women?
No, the men.
No, but the men would leave every day. That's what they said.
So what were they doing?
The real world to work jobs to pay for the thing.
Is that exactly what it was?
That's what they said. The men leave every day to go work jobs to pay for the women to be in the simulation, which makes no sense because Harry Styles' whole character thing was like, I wanted to spend more time with you, right? You were miserable. You never wanted to. And what does the promotion mean? It doesn't mean anything. And also, the more you think about it, you're like, how does this community? When you look at it on a map, there's nothing there. There's about 3 streets. Of course, people are going to go, something's off, because there's no fucking shops or a cinema or community.
Or a cinema.
Yeah, like, I mean, again, I just thought there are Black Mirror episodes that are cheaper, shorter, and, have done sort of basically the same thing. You could do that at the same time. And I say that as Black Mirror. Yeah, I'm on the fence. I love the early Channel 4 stuff.
I think if that was an episode of Black Mirror, people would be more interested in it than if it was a film.
Well, yeah, because it'd be shorter. I think there's this old like Twilight Zone rule with concepts.
You wouldn't be that irritated you wouldn't be this irritated if it was a Black Mirror episode. But the fact that you had to go into your cinema and spend your time.
And there's always been such conversation around it.
Yeah.
I would have watched it and gone, okay, that was all right. I kind of ended there. But because they've pumped it up as just its own standalone thing, with Black Mirror, there are some really interesting ones, and there's some things that don't work. But that was it. I was going to say the Twilight Zone. There's like a Twilight Zone concept, which is that almost the Twilight Zone when it first came out was like 25 minutes long. And for those who don't remember, like, from the 50s, it's sort of like individual stories each time, and it was like brilliant. You begin with a mystery, and it would and Black Mirror has often been held up as like the heir apparent to the Twilight Zone. Mm-hmm. So you take slightly science fiction based stories, and it always usually has a twist or reveal at the end that sort of touches on a wider sort of socio-political point or satirical point. When the Twilight Zone was first shown, I think it was like 25 minutes long, and then they extended it for a second run, and the episodes were like 45 minutes long. And it's when it hit the 45-minute zone that it started to struggle a little bit, because they realized the longer you make an episode, the harder it is to sustain an audience, right? Which is why sometimes Black Mirror episodes, I think, are just just about hit the finish line, just
Yeah.
on the end. And with Don't Worry Darling, you're like, if this was shorter, I probably would have been a bit more interesting because the idea isn't. Anyway, shall I read you that original premise? Shall I read you the original take?
So, sorry, just before you do, it feels like to me that film was written with the concept of a society in the 50s and something going wrong, and then they went for the solution.
Well,
I don't feel like they went, I don't feel like they had the Harry Styles being an incel in his room, the idea first. It felt like an afterthought, which is why it never connected to the rest of it.
Well, so this is an article on Digital Spy, actually, forgive me, not People Magazine. So I think... so the movie started life as a blacklist script. So I think the main thing there is that the reveal happens halfway through the story, not at the end, which I think would have made
a huge difference to that.
Huge difference. That's how. Sorry, they're just recapping what happens in the original script. There was no Victory, and the only main characters were so and so and so and so. Victory was instead called Alt Life, and while it's still a simulation that Evelyn was plugged into, the circumstances are markedly different. It's actually 2050 in the real world, and Alt Life was created as a response to the fact that women are actually incredibly successful and hold a lot of power in the world, right? The reveal comes halfway through the movie, which, as you said, makes a big difference. She is able to get out, and Alt Life is called a society of men, by men, and for men. Right? And they say things like, you're likely the same as I was years ago, tired of living in a world controlled by men, controlled by women, sick of them out-earning you in the workplace, yearning for a return to simpler times where a woman's place stretched no further than the kitchen. By 2050, Evelyn and Clifford is Harry Styles' character, so Jack in the film, but he's called Clifford in the original. Evelyn and Clifford had divorced, but Clifford couldn't handle that or his wife's success. So he signed up to Alt Life, and all he has to do was fake Evelyn's death, drug her, and plug her into the machine. Simple. I mean, also far-fetched, but
big one to fake death.
Yeah,
just simply do that.
Anyway, and then it kind of follows a similar thing, but the idea of bringing it earlier and grounding it into like and being like that whole first half you've watched it is because of a consequence of this thing that's happening, a much bigger story.
That sounds like a more interesting film to then unpack that.
I know. So I don't know how it got sort of butchered and translated in what it did. When it ended, there was kind of stunned silence in our
It being a simulation.
audience.
Sorry, it being simulation still makes no sense for the plane thing.
No.
Why have a plane crash in your controlled simulation?
Because she had the plane as a toy, right? The child had a plane as a toy, so I was like, oh, is it going to be connected to that?
Yeah.
Exhausting. Whatever. Anyway, I digress. I feel like I've spit my fire on it now, and I don't want to hate it. I just find it incredibly disappointing.
It's
and
probably
frustrating.
you probably have the most. You probably have the angriest opinion that I've heard, but I don't think anything you've said is wrong.
You know what it is? Sorry, I also don't like saying anger. I'm not vitriolic.
No.
But do you know what it is? Is that if someone said to me now, "Oh, I'm thinking about, you saw Don't Worry, Darling. I'm thinking about going to see it. What do you think?" I'd be like, "Don't bother, darling." It's sorry, but I'm like, you're not going to get much out of it. Also, it should have been called Don't Worry, Baby, because no one says darling in the picture. She says baby all the time, and then there's a song called Don't Worry, Baby. That's it. That's my 10 cents. I'm out.